Okay, so we got Roger Moore. So, what do you guys think? What do you guys think about him? The films, the
Um,
series, stuff.
I guess if you were to look at Roger Moore in just like a short sentence, I guess you could call him the silver age of the James Bond series, where everything got really weird and goofy.
Yeah. I like Moore. I just hate most of his movies. He does a good job, but the script writers and the directors don't.
I think what's interesting about Roger Moore, I think someone might have picked it up. Might have said this in the last time, but I think Roger Moore's a really good Bond. I think what makes him amazing is just that he knows that many of these films are ridiculous, but he does his darndest to make sure they're good. I mean, even with Moonraker, it's terrible.
Even he couldn't save that one.
Yeah, I know that, but he did his darndest to give the best Bond, to do his best to bring his A game to it.
He always tried, that's why I like him, even when the movies were incredibly crappy, he at least tried. It was never his fault.
Yeah.
Dude, he always did a great job. It wasn't his fault his movies sucked, it was everyone else.
Yeah, and I think also if someone argues that he couldn't do a serious Bond, look at The Spy Who Loved Me, where he's fighting the bald guy and he's kicking his butt, and the guy is grabbing Roger Moore's tie and he's about to fall off the roof. It's like, where's Fekish? And it's like he's at the pyramids. Poop knocks the tie out of his hand, and the guy falls to his death. Like, that was cold. It's like,
what a helpful chap.
Yeah, and I think also for me, I think the best film of the series, and for this reason, is For Your Eyes Only. Is the same thing happens where you kill my. I forgot how he said it, but you kill my friend, and he tosses the dove in, and
yeah, he said you left this with. I forgot what the character's name was.
Luigi.
Yeah, he left this with Luigi.
I think he calls him Ferrara though in that scene.
Oh yeah, you left this with Ferrara, and he throws the assassin's pin into his car, and he kicks the car over.
Yeah, and
that death in particular is actually pretty brutal. You actually see the guy fall out of the car window.
Yeah, that was a good. And what was nice about it for me is that the car didn't explode, because that makes me roll my eyes. It's like, oh, come on. But
they were on their way to a funeral.
And I think what's also about great with Roger Moore is that he was what the studio needed. A guy that was hungry, he was experienced, and he did his best. He gave it his all with each and every film. And I think he also fit thanks to his seriousness with each time he did it. I'm not saying seriousness, but the commitment to the role. I think he helped fit the genre of the Bond that was needed. For example, Vietnam was tearing up the Western world because everyone's getting angry about it. Well, I'm not saying right or wrong. And so that with the films, as funky, as weird as they are, is what the audience wanted, because they didn't really want to hear about the Cold War. It's like the Cold War. So every time you hear Cold War, people take a blink and they just see Vietnam instead. So with The Spy Who Loved Me, a lot of the films, it distances the Cold War from Bond considerably in order to keep the audience interested and in love with Bond instead of pushed away.
My opinion on Roger Moore is that his movies are incredibly hit or miss. I have nothing personal against Roger Moore. I mean, from interviews, and he seems like a great guy, a true English gentleman, and of course he's involved with a lot of charity work. And you're right, and he was committed, and bravo to him that he kept with the role even after it was clear that he should not have, like, on A View to a Kill and Octopussy. He should have not. He's getting way too old. But he went in there like.
And on A View to a Kill, he was older than the mother of his love interest. Than her mother.
Interesting enough, he has gone on record to say, out of all the films he's done, the only one he ever regretted was A View to a Kill.
Right. Right. And what's funny, they were thinking about dragging him back again for Living Daylights. It's like, okay, come on, guys, really? Could you please
He was what, bordering 60 years at that time?
Yeah, I think he was
late
56. He was 50, I think he was 56 for Living. No, not Living Daylights. I'm sorry, A View to a Kill. And I think it just shows why they're dragging him back in. Is just that it shows how solid he was, and I think it's that fear is like if we lose Roger Moore, we're in that trap of who's the next Bond, and I think it's frightening, understandably frightening for the producers and the studio, saying, okay, we lost a great actor. We're getting rid of a great actor, so who's next? So it's scary for them because Lazenby. It's like that's what they're thinking. We'd want to know the Lazenby incident.
And to an extent, that kind of sort of happened with Timothy Dalton, considering he only went for 2 films, but there was legal issues that caused that.
Yeah,
I think and we'll talk about Dalton when we get to him, but I think audiences and critics were really bipolar back then, and they probably still are. But when A View to a Kill came out, there was like Moore was getting trashed, and excuse me for a minute. Sorry. Moore was just getting like there's all these political cartoons of like this a cartoon came out when Never Say Never Again and Octopussy came out. It's these 2 guys looking at these 2 posters of these 2 old Bonds, and one of them says, "I hear the wheelchair chase is great."
Oh.
And so they were like, okay, this guy's too old. His movies are way too campy. They're way too silly. So when Dalton came on board, they wanted a serious Bond, but then he got criticized for being too dark, too serious. He didn't sleep with enough. He didn't sleep with a lot of women.
He didn't sleep at all. He didn't sleep at all. On camera, you did not see Timothy Dalton have sex with any of the women. He did kiss,
Right.
but that's it. We're going a little too far ahead, man. But I think with Roger Moore is that I think again the campiness is that a lot of people weren't ready for. The problem with Bond's character is that he's very into the Cold War. His character was birthed from World War II and matured in the Cold War. And the problem, as we were saying, is that not a lot of people wanted to talk about the Cold War. A lot of the people in the West were fed up with it because it's just they didn't see the point of it. And I think, in a sense, that what was interesting is that with like, for example, what's the films? The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker, you see mention of the United States and the Soviet Union, but that's it. You don't. They're cooperating, tentatively cooperating. They're polite, but that's it. There's no threat of nuclear war or end of the world. There's the thought and concern. I think because it was that a big concern at the time is nuclear proliferation. So I think the James Bond series did a great job keeping in mind that a lot of people were not interested in hearing about the Cold War. They were done. And I think with For Your Eyes Only, it showed that okay, people were starting to get ready for it again. And I think when did the film come out? I'm sorry.
What movie?
I'm sorry. For Your Eyes Only.
1981.
Okay, 81 is when the Soviet Union was 2 years into the Soviet Union's entrance and invasion into Afghanistan. So, and a lot of people were condemning it. So, in a sense, it was time to go back to Cold War because people were talking about it.
Well, yeah, and like when we get to the middle 70s, by that time the Cold War was really kind of. It was this is really cheesy, but it was really cold. In terms of relationships between the United States and the Soviet Union, things have really cooled down by that point. And of course, by the time Spy Love Me came out, Vietnam was over. So it was, I think definitely like in the early 70s, people were kind of, they didn't want to They didn't want to hear about the Cold War. They didn't want to see stories about. It's kind of hard to say because there were movies that came out about that around that time that were about the Cold War. Also, I think
That's something kind of interesting when they're talking about the Cold War in the later James Bond movies. They didn't so much portray it as the straight up Russians being bad, more
right.
Ambiguous, yeah.
In fact, actually, in Spy Who Loved Me, one of the main things behind that movie is that the British and the Russians were working together.
Not being smart, wasn't the Americans and the British working together? And then they actually, if I recall correctly, didn't talk about he mentioned the Soviets at all. It's kind of like that happened with You Only Live Twice. It's like, yeah, the Soviets were being captured, but in the film, Bond only finds the American astronauts, and that was it. It's like the Soviets are kind of like they died for the mother Russia, something like that. I don't know, but that's
I think in oh, you know what? You could be right. I think in the Spy Who Loved Me, it was. Wait, refresh my memory. Maybe I think it was. Stromberg had a Russian submarine, a British submarine, and an American submarine.
I think it had to be at least one Soviet Union because that's why the female Soviet spy got involved because it was now a global matter. And I think actually now thinking about it, although it was a cheesy plot, end of the world, talking about nuclear weapons, it was actually an interesting way of showing how at that time, in the time period, the Soviet Union, the United States, and even Britain were attempting to cooperate in order to help prevent this crisis from occurring.
Well. The British agent working in love with the Russian agent. Détente indeed.
Oh, that's a good call. Good call. I forgot about that line. Good call.
My God, 007, what are you doing? Keeping the British end up, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was also...
Nobody does it better
than you.
I think it's a universal accepted opinion that The Spy Who Loved Me was the best of Roger Moore's films.
I have to respectfully disagree. Maybe because I'm an uptight, serious person. My brother can attest to that. But I think For Your Eyes Only is probably Roger Moore's best Bond. There were some cringe-worthy moments in it that held it.
The Margaret Thatcher part?
It
was pretty bad.
No, actually, I forgot about what's that part?
It's at the very end, the MI6 connects Bond to speak with Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, and the Bond girl's bird. He puts the phone next to the parrot, and the parrot is saying, "Give me a kiss, give me a kiss," and Thatcher's like, "Oh, Mr. Bond."
Oh, yeah, that was a slap in the face.
I remember that. That was really dumb.
What I was going to say about, in terms of The Spy Who Loved Me, was that I think The Spy Who Loved Me was the movie that I think really it saved the Bond franchise in the 70s, because To Live and Let Die was okay, was moderate. You know, it wasn't. There was some negative reviews, but it was okay. It was commercially successful.
It was an okay movie, but not exactly what people were hoping for to really show Roger Moore as a good replacement for Sean Connery.
Exactly.
It was kind of like a test run. It was like a test run.
Exactly. And then when we get to The Man with the Golden Gun, The Man with the Golden Gun was not well received when it came out, and this was the last movie. I should mention this. It was the last movie produced by Cubby Broccoli and Harry Saltzman, and during that movie, they were, Roger Moore was like in the middle of two giant producers, really at each other's throats. And when that movie came out, that was like, okay, because the movie sucks. It's boring.
And they wasted some amazing stunts. The barrel roll of the car, probably one of the best stunts, the most dangerous stunts the Bond series has done. And they wasted it.
And a good actor.
And not just the stunts. They wasted such a good actor like Christopher Lee.
So when The Spy Who Loved Me came out, that was like, okay, the franchise can continue because the first scene, it's the ski chase, and
Yeah.
Bond skis off the cliff, and then he free falls, opens his parachute, Union Jack parachute. Yeah, the parachute has a Union Jack on it. Bond theme kicks in. Huge applause at the premiere.
Yeah.
Spy Who Loved Me got like unbelievable response. So that was the movie that really saved Bond in the 70s.
And it had everything too. What was great about that film was that it had everything that everyone wanted from a Bond film. A great music. The song was great. It's probably one of the most iconic. If I'm not even just say the best. For me, it's one of my favorite. It's one of the most iconic. Yeah, nobody does it better. Yeah, Spy Who Loved Me. One of the most memorable villains, Jaws. You have great gadgets.
Bond shooting a guy in the balls.
Yeah. Oh, that was the most one. That's probably the most violent death of one of the most violent deaths in James Bond films, right there.
No, the funny thing about Stromberg's death is considering how brutal it was, and if you guys know about how in the early script it was supposed to be Blofeld, you could really tell that was really meant to be Blofeld's death, not this other guy.
Oh,
yeah, that's the only downside to The Spy Who Loved Me is that it has all this great stuff, but Stromberg's a pretty forgettable villain.
He comes off as Blofeld light, I find.
Hello?
I'm still here.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm just laughing at you. That's a good point. I think that's what makes Jaws amazing is that he makes up for it. I think what's also interesting is that you have, I think after this film, you have the more colorful, the secondary villain or supporting villain is actually more colorful than the main villain. It's himself or herself.
It was pretty much, it was pretty much Roger Moore's Goldfinger, really.
That's a good point.
Yes. Every Bond actor has that movie where it's like this is their cream of the crop film. And I'm hearing myself.
Except for Dalton and Lazenby, but no.
Well, Dalton had both his movies were awesome, so.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I'm just saying that there's that theory like the third Bond movie's always like supposedly the best one, but it didn't work out for Bronson.
Yeah. It didn't work for Bronson. It didn't work out for Lazenby. Obviously, it didn't work out for Dalton, and Craig is debatable.
Yeah.
Yeah, for Craig, it's pretty close between Skyfall and Casino.
That's why I said it's debatable. For me, Casino Royale is the best, but you could make the argument.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry for cutting you off, but I just want to hear your guys' thoughts on this because I've watched a couple like Bond reviews on YouTube and I've read some reviews because it's the 50th anniversary and they're looking back at all these movies. For your eyes only, it's my favorite Roger Moore movie. But a lot of people put it low on the list because it's not fun. It's not. What do you guys think of that?
I think
it's generic for me. It's just same old, really. It's not bad, but nothing really stands out.
For me personally, I'd say out of all the movies Roger Moore did, I'd say it's his second best, with Spy Who Loved Me being his first. And really, I think it's an overall good movie. I actually think the beginning of that movie is actually one of the best beginnings in the entire series.
Yeah, same here. I love that pre-credit sequence with the Blofeld and the helicopter. I love it.
I actually dislike that. I think for me, the problem with For Your Eyes Only is it's very bipolar because I think looking at the times, people were getting back into the Cold War. I think they wanted to keep it from being too serious because this is what the stake where it was at stake was a British top secret device, and if it fell into the Soviet Union's hands, it wouldn't have been the end of the world, but it would have been a big blow. So I think, I hate to say it, I don't mean to disagree with you guys, but I didn't really like the opening sequences because it's just that, especially when it's supposed to be Blofeld, this should be a very bitter, to the death. Event.
I mean, I can watch this. I can watch it in two modes: one where I care, and one where I don't care. I can just sit back and like, oh, that's great. He's flying the hell. He drops Blofeld in a and a shit down a chimney. I can like totally detach it from all the previous other Bond movies. But then again, there's the whole thing. They brought back the on Her Majesty's Secret Service reference, and they have Tracy's grave, and it's kind of like, well, this kind of deserves a little bit more than just keep your hair on.
Yeah, I think that was bad. I think also what held it back was the hockey fight sequence.
Ugh.
The underage girl.
Well,
Oh,
The underage girl thing, that was-
ice cream.
The underage girl thing was almost a joke in itself.
that wasn't even funny
Put
though.
clothes on, and I'll buy you an ice cream.
That was awkward. But looking beyond that, though, what I liked about it
I thought
was looking past those very glaring things. Very glaring is that it was a great film for me. It's what Bond is. It's a very dark film, and he has seed. Also, the buggy sequence was a little iffy. It's kind of like roll your eyes. Come on, just shoot him already. But the point for me is that I think it was just that it had this it did a great job pulling Bond into this underworld, and you had this great secondary good character that actually takes the honor of killing the main villain of the film. It's like, whoa, you don't see that often. So, and
Columbo, I think his name was.
yeah, so we transport anything, but not heroin, something like that. And I think it's a shame they didn't bring him back in another film, or it would be cool to see since they're doing a reboot, to see him come back in a Craig film, because that would have been a great character look up there with Valentin Sikovsky or Jack Wade.
but they killed off Tchaikovsky.
No, the underworld. No, I'm not sorry. The ally.
You mean Zukovsky?
Yeah, they killed him off. I'm just trying. What I'm trying to say is that poor words. I'm trying to say is that the secondary good guy character from For Your Eyes Only could have been a great character to kind of bring back in a couple other films. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I just kind of funny they didn't kill him in that movie, because at that point, them killing off secondary characters had become basically a habit.
Okay.
They killed off the Luigi.
Okay, we have to wrap this section up. Any last thoughts?
If I were to, I think when it comes to Roger Moore, I like him overall. I think he's a good guy at bringing the humor to the series, even if it is kind of campy. And
He's the master of the double entree.
Yeah, he's the one who really set the double entendres, or however you pronounce that word.
I forgot to.
Yeah. For me, what I liked about Roger Moore is that he knew. He's kind of like Leslie Nielsen. He knew he was in a goofy movie, but he did a great job being the straight guy. Again, make it better than it should have been. If it wasn't for him, a lot of those Bond films could have been just easily B-movie rejects.
For me, Roger Moore. I mean, like I said, I personally do. I personally like the guy. I like him as a guy. And I do like some of the movies. Like I like Spy Who Loved Me. I like parts of Live and Let Die. I like For Your Eyes Only, and I do like Octopussy. But his Bond is not my favorite. But I could see why he was popular. But yeah. So I would just say he's just kind of, for me as a Bond, he's middle of the road.
Gotcha.
Oh, one other thing I forgot to mention. I'll just say this real quick. One thing I find interesting about the series, a lot of the movies that came out during his time, like, for example, Moonraker, nowadays it's considered to be an absolute crap. Back in the day, people actually really liked that movie when it came out.
Highest grossing Bond movie.
View to a Kill, back in the day, everyone thought it was crap. Nowadays, it actually has more fans that like it now.
Christopher Walken, this guy. I was waiting for Spoonie to come out of nowhere and just say that, especially when he steals his babe.
Yeah, you know what? I think today when people are revisiting A View to a Kill, I think people revisit that movie because Christopher Walken's in it. I think that's the reason why.
Yeah,
You'll lose, Mr. Bond.
It's good.
Patrick's saying, do we need more time with Roger Moore? Anything else you want to talk about before we go?
I don't have anything else to say.
really.
The only thing I really have to comment is that I find every single James Bond for the most, or every actor has usually had. I don't remember if this is the same for Timothy Dalton, but all the other ones usually had some kind of memorable introduction whenever they got a new actor. Like Sean Connery had the poker scene where they hide his face for a bit. George Lazenby had the scene on the beach. I don't remember what happened with Dalton. And
they exercise in Gibraltar.
Yeah, I remember. Pierce Brosnan, they hit his face until Buddy with the newspaper moves it, and then he's like, "Sorry, forgot to knock," and then he punches him.
Yeah, I think in a sense that Roger Moore began with a cautious beginning, and then, as I think Webbman, you guys have said, once Spy Who Loved Me showed up, it's like, yep, he's Bond. Yeah.
But then, as I was trying to say, when Roger Moore's first appearance in Live and Let Die came up, it's like he doesn't have any kind of dramatic introduction or anything. He's just asleep in bed.
Yeah, but I think it just shows how much the producers were wary of building up a character that could have been a potential disaster. I'm not saying Honor Majesty's Secret Service is bad. I'm just saying it's just that the criticism for the film was really hurting them.
I think what I think also what it was that Roger Moore was a known actor because he'd done The Saint, so it's kind of like we don't need to build him up. People already know who he is.
True.
Yeah, he was famous for The Saint, I think.
Yeah.
He was also interested in The Wild Geese, and interestingly, he's actually a secondary character in that film. So yeah, he's known for other films. So yeah, but I think I'm not trying to be the last guy. I'm not trying to be the last word here on this section, but that's just for me. I think Roger Moore is a great film guy. What's amazing was that despite how bipolar his era was with the subjects, very serious, very silly, disaster, very good. He always was consistent, despite what they gave him for a script. So, and he did his very best, and because of that, I think that's one reason why people want him for another film, despite him being way too old for it. Insert Danny Glover quote.
Moore was a great Bond. He just didn't star in very great Bond movies.
Yeah.